Hey everybody, welcome back to another edition of Weddings Done Right Radio, the how-to for the I Do. I am Jody Harris from Sight and Sound Events in fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada. There we go. We say Nevada, but it's Nevada. Las Vegas, Nevada. And I am here today. I'm super excited. Weddings Done Right Radio, the how-to for the I Do is a show that I produced along with my partner and husband, Pat. And it's all about information for couples, wedding couples that are getting married, because there's so much information about getting married and having a wedding, and your mind will explode. So it was our idea to bring on the experts in the industry. And today's show is going to be fun-tastic, because sitting with me right now in the studio are three of Las Vegas's best wedding photographers. And today's episode, we're going to call it Picture Perfect. Oh, isn't that cool? So it's kind of like a round table of three photographers that I work with a lot. And I'm going to have them introduce themselves. I'll start with Tiffany first. So of course, Tiffany, the lovely Tiffany, who's, by the way, also a bride-to-be. Tiffany is engaged to get married. So congratulations.
Oh, thanks.
Congratulations.
I'm Tiffany. I am born and raised in Las Vegas. So
wow.
Yeah.
Nevada,
please. Always Nevada. I've been doing wedding photography since 2008.
Great.
And yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Awesome.
It's a lot of fun.
Awesome. And sitting next to me, the one and only man on the panel tonight is Raphael.
Hi, guys. My name is Raphael. I've been doing wedding photography since 2003. I specialize in commercial photography as well. I was raised in a family of photographers. So since I have conscience, I've been involved in either a dark room or being in front of a camera or in the studio. So it's been part of my life since I remember, and I love it. It's fun. I do it for a living. I'm very lucky to be here in Las Vegas and experience all these magnificent weddings that happen here.
Awesome. Yes, and that's a lot of weddings in Las Vegas.
Absolutely.
And sitting next to Raphael is the stunning Jenna. Hey.
Hey. Hi, I'm Jenna, and I moved to Las Vegas in, 2006 to shoot weddings, originally from Michigan. And I've done a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you guys for taking time out of your busy day to come on the show. Today's show, for the wedding couples that are listening, is kind of different. We're going to go like kind of a roundtable kind of discussion. We'll give you some advice. Each one of these photographers, as you heard, have years of experience. So if you took the three of them together, combined all that experience, we have a very, very great panel for you today. So one of the things that we want to talk about first is how soon in the process, and either one, you can just kind of look at each other and see who wants to take the question. How soon should a couple think about wedding photography or hiring a wedding photographer? Any one of you guys want to take this one?
Well, personally, I like it when I get to shoot their engagement photos and then get to do their wedding.
Great.
Because I get to establish that kind of relationship with them. I know what their engagement photos look like. Therefore, I know by that point, I kind of get their style. I kind of get what they want. Mm-hmm. That kind of thing. So I think that's important as a relationship builder. I don't think it's 100% absolutely necessary, but I think it's if you can get it together in time to have the same photographer for your engagement and your wedding, then I think it's worth doing.
Well, that's one of the things that when I was researching the topic, that was one of the things that, believe it or not, that was a tip, is clicking, no pun intended, but clicking with your photographer. And I think that's excellent, Tiffany, that you brought it up, the engagement session. Raphael, are you seeing a lot of brides doing engagement sessions?
Yes, I've done a lot. And yes, just to back up what Tiffany said, yes, it is very important. It kind of breaks the ice. You get to know the couple. Mm-hmm. They get to know you too as well, which is very, very important. Open up any kind of conversation, questions in regards to the date, how you guys can talk a little details about what's going to happen, how it can happen. And I think it's very, very, very important. Absolutely.
And Jenna, do you see that with destination brides, we're not specifically based in Las Vegas. The show is heard by brides around the world. Do you think it's hard for couples to, if they're having a destination wedding, to do an engagement session with maybe the photographer in their city?
Most definitely. However, I think since a lot of brides are destination, they come to town prior to the event to check out the venue and see all their vendors. So why not book an engagement session while you're in town?
I've done one of those before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think that's awesome advice. And engagement sessions can actually be done anywhere, right? I mean, you guys could be done at a railroad track. It could be done.
Yeah.
I mean,
there-
I think there are laws against the railroad tracks now, but I think it's important for them to really think about. It has to be something that illustrates them, maybe a place that's important to them or integral to their relationship, or somehow meaningful to them. Because, I mean, you can throw out ideas all day long, and if it's not something that's meaningful to them, then the photos aren't going to mean as much.
So you don't have. There's no rules that say you have to have a beautiful beach to have an engagement session.
No,
Right.
No,
absolutely not. No.
Vegas has a lot of diversity too. So
Yeah.
if they want an urban look or if they want nature, we have lots of parks to go to and
Trees.
areas like that.
We even have beach. I mean,
There is
I
a
had a
beach,
couple. I had
yeah.
a couple that wanted. They actually asked me. They said, so we kind of wanted a beach, maybe some boats. Do you have any ideas? Lake Las Vegas worked perfect. There's a
Right.
couple white beaches out there you
Yeah.
can just go on and take photos, and nobody would ever know you were in Vegas.
Right, and that's Vegas.
That's
Vegas.
That's very
that's a
Vegas. But
thing.
I would assume that if with enough research, a lot of major cities would have that kind of diversity to some degree. You could have urban, you could have nature with parks or with trails or anything hiking involved. You could, I think you can pretty much diversify. You just have to look it up. You have to research it.
Yeah, I know. I think your tip of just your personality, what kind of personality you are. I mean, I think I've seen people do engagement sessions in Disneyland. So it just depends on your
museums
personality.
are popular
Yeah,
too.
yep. My next question has to do with coverage. We've all been in those situations where there's not enough time. What do you recommend, Raphael, as far as like what's the perfect amount of time for a wedding photographer? If you had to say, you are.
I would say between 6 to 8 hours, a minimum,
You girls agree?
for a full day
For a
coverage.
full, I might go a little bit less than that, just depending. It just depends on where they are, how big the party is, how big the wedding is, how much detail is involved.
Is there more than one location?
Is there more than one location?
Getting right in a hotel, then moving over to the venue or the
Right.
church or
Right.
wherever.
I mean, and some brides, believe it or not, some brides are ready lickety split, and you don't know there's only so many putting on makeup and stuff like that shots you can get.
Yeah.
And you go back and forth between the bride and the groom and everything. But sometimes, I mean, there has been occasions where at least on the front end, the beginning of the affair, where you're just kind of trying to figure out, you're trying to think of other things to shoot because.
So in a perfect world, would you say like an hour of pre-ceremony coverage between the bride and groom would probably be like, if a bride's out there right now listening to us, and would you tell them like no more than like say an hour and a half worth of getting ready? Because
I think that's a conversation between the photographer and the bride, because I think it's a lot of her personality. It depends on if there's multiple locations.
Yeah.
It depends on how fussy they are about things, I think. But a lot of times when I've talked to brides, I've said, I've kind of talked to them, and sometimes they'll tell me, all right, we plan on putting on the dress at this time. And so I'll show up probably about a half hour beforehand so I can get some detailed shots before they put the dress on, and then they put the dress on, and it's, game on from there.
right.
So I think it just depends.
And a lot of
Yeah.
conversation.
It all
scheduling
depends.
things out too. Sorry.
No,
No,
I'm sorry.
go ahead.
Yeah.
Just scheduling things out if they
Yeah.
want to do formals prior. So all of the
First look.
Yeah, if they want to do first look, that's another thing too. But say the whole bridal party wants to have photos with the bride individually, and is the groom in a separate suite? Do you have to go back and forth? So, I mean, sometimes it may even make sense to hire a second photographer.
That's what I was just going to ask you. In a perfect, it sounds like something as complex as that would probably require two photographers: a photographer to go with the girls, a photographer to go with the boys, and maybe an assistant photographer, just somebody who's like maybe the gopher that can run between the two.
In a perfect world, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're trying
Doesn't
to
always happen that way, but
Well,
in
we're
a
trying
perfect
to
world, that'd be
educate these
awesome.
brides. That's why we're
Yeah.
here. In a perfect world, get two photographers and have like
And an assistant.
right? Because that is
Yes.
and that definitely works. I mean, you definitely it makes your life so much easier. I could imagine.
That, and it's all about, I think part of that conversation needs to be about timing. I actually went to a wedding, believe it or not, recently.
What?
Where I know, right? I didn't know what to do
You
with
guys
myself.
must be the worst people.
Oh,
at-
the worst
All
wedding,
three
wedding
of you,
guests,
all four
probably.
of us are the worst people to invite to a wedding.
I mean, I was texting Jody halfway through it,
Criticizing everything.
but one of the things is because of when their chapel time was and when their reception time was, they were taking photos at Lake Las Vegas at noon.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah,
That's a bad time.
Oh my God, that's a really
and I
bad time.
tried to help them. So knowing Lake Las Vegas like I do, I was trying to tell them shaded places to go and places where it might look better. But the planning, I think, has to be part of it.
Yeah.
You have to talk to your photographer about timing, and then that's why you bring on a photographer earlier rather than later. I mean, I've been to wedding ceremonies where you are, as an audience member watching the ceremony, you are because they wanted that beautiful sunset ceremony. Well, the sunset's set behind them, but it's glaring everybody straight in the eyes,
And
and
that's
people were like watching the ceremony like this because they couldn't see. But that's why I think you need to bring a photographer on sooner rather than later.
I agree. And a lot of times, too, is they don't realize that it sounds so glamorous. You hit the nail on the head, but it sounds so glamorous and sexy when you say sunset wedding. But then you've got to take all those photos
In
of
the dark.
family or
dark.
romantics, and people don't quite understand that there's no stick. We photographers, there hasn't been invented. There hasn't been a stick invented where we can hold up the sun just for you.
Right.
So they can get your wedding photos at the gold.
We'll have to have Acme involved and
What
get that together.
what is Raphael, the golden hour? What do they mean by golden hour? Or Jenna, what's gold? You know golden hour? You know,
Before sunset? Like an
right?
hour before
Jenna,
sunset?
your eyes lit up when I asked him the question.
Yeah, I mean, there's that magical hour right before the sun completely sets, and I actually prefer to shoot here in Vegas when the sun goes behind the mountains.
Agreed.
Because you get the ambient light more so than direct light, so it has more flattering for the skin.
What is the perfect time to have a wedding ceremony, in your opinion, the three of you? What would you say the perfect time for a ceremony? So, okay, here's the scenario. You are going to be doing, the bride and groom don't want a first look, and you're going to start an hour prior to their ceremony, doing some getting ready shots, which is pretty standard here. I mean, there are other photographers that spend like full days, 12 hours, but typically what I see a lot of, you start the hour before, they have the ceremony, and then you have to do all the photos with family, and then you got to take them for the romantic. So if you're having that kind of wedding, what's the best time to schedule your ceremony?
What time of year is it?
Yeah, depending on the time of the year, because sunset happens,
Like right now, the sun's setting at 5:30.
Yeah.
But in the summer,
It can be
that
8,
sun
9
doesn't go
o'clock.
down. Yeah.
7:30, 7:45. Yeah, depending on the time of the year.
Okay.
I mean, in December, the sun was setting at 4:30.
Okay.
So I
that's
think that's
something
a
the brides.
huge thing that I think a lot
Yeah.
of people forget about.
Okay.
Is depending on what time of year it is.
So the brides have to keep that in mind.
Google it.
Yeah.
Google it. Sundown 4 and your wedding date. And they'll tell you what time the sundown's going to be.
Absolutely, Yeah.
Do you guys have any advice for or have you ever encountered grooms, not necessarily brides, because I can't imagine, maybe you'll correct me, grooms that are just not into the whole taking picture thing?
Oh,
Yes.
Constantly.
I don't know what you're talking
I
about.
was
What do you do? What do you like? We got a girl, we have somebody maybe listening, a couple listening right now. One of them's not into it.
Bring alcohol.
And
Honest answer.
be realistic about your groom too. I mean, talk about it ahead of time. Like,
Yeah.
have him talk to the photographer, get comfortable. The more comfortable, the alcohol thing probably does work, but the more comfortable they are, the better. I mean, and be realistic about what you think your photos with your husband are going to look like too. If he is, 5'7" and you are an inch taller than him when you put on your heels and you want this great photo of him with his arms wrapped around you, that isn't going to happen. It's just not physically possible. I've had that happen before. So I think on all levels, be realistic about your expectations of your groom and talk to him about it. I mean, even if he's kind of hands off, do whatever you want.
Yeah.
I think with the photos, you have to talk to him. You have to kind of, and maybe if you suggest some fun photos with him and his groomsmen, like, hey, everybody bring sunglasses or something like that.
Or
I think
holding
maybe
beers
it'll get him more
or
into
things
it.
like that.
Yeah. Taking a shot.
I will go back to the engagement session. That's when you break the ice with your groom. And me as a man, I have to feel very, very comfortable with him. Very talkative to him as well. Make him participate and make him feel as comfortable as possible. And, just approach him and let him know that he has any questions, any kind of special requests, and just to make him feel comfortable, basically.
So you've had to,
as
obviously,
a man,
have you guys had experiences? Jenna, have you ever had an experience with somebody who's just not into it? Or
Yeah, at that point, I'll usually kind of pull the groom aside and tell him that these are for her, not for you. And nice about it in a nice way. These are her memories, your memories. But, I'm not going to say anything, but you can usually see how long the marriage is going to last based on their response to that.
But you usually have a pretty decent response, right? When they is there something bothering you?
You can tell when they get tired, and you just sort of go ahead and take a break, and we'll just do some portraits with the bride. And have some fun with it, and
Bring
talk
some
with
snacks.
Snacks, yeah, definitely.
Have you guys ever encountered brides that weren't just not into photos? No, right? Because the brides are
No.
Actually, yeah.
Well, I think, and you know when, and oddly enough, most of the time it's because they haven't eaten and they just want to get into the reception and get
That's
food.
true.
Or they
Second
got
wedding.
a really good deal on a golf course ceremony in the middle of July, and it's 115,
Yeah.
and they're wearing this big old dress, and their husband is in a 3-piece whatever suit going on, and they just want out of the sun. That was the other, but yeah.
We had, we just, matter of fact, we just talked about it before we went on with the podcast about a bride that you and I worked with, a wedding. You worked with Heather, who at the time was your assistant. And we did a wedding, and the bride just took some medication and wasn't feeling good.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
She was totally into the photos.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
remember this client, she was totally into having photos. And then you guys were telling me she got
When
sick.
we got there, yeah. And so, I mean, that all comes with the planning. I mean,
Yeah, you can't play,
you just have to plan and eat. Most of the time,
Yes.
like I
Yeah.
said, most of the time when the bride is cranky and not into it, it's because nobody fed her. I mean, she's trying to, think about what she's going to look like and all this stuff. There has to be a bridesmaid whose sole job is to feed you
Very
throughout the
important.
day.
And
Hydrate
drink
and
lots of water.
throughout
Here
the
in
day.
Vegas, you dehydrated dramatically. I mean, like,
And I think that goes for
incredibly
anywhere
fast.
as
Yeah.
well. I mean, just drinking water in general. So you hear that, girls? The brides out there and grooms and wedding couples, you do need to eat on your wedding day. You got to snack. You
Yes,
Yeah.
it will. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, and hydrate. Drink water. Don't drink the alcohol. Drink water. Once you get to the reception, then hey,
Party all you want.
party all you want. But if think about it. These wedding photos are with them and with their families forever. All of us here, I'm sure, can go back to our ancestors, a great grandmother, and pick and see their photos if we had to. I know I can. I know I have a box in my bedroom of old black and white and sepia photos of my family going back to the day. That's your family history.
Yep.
It is so important to look good and to be in a good mood and to. These are your memories. These are priceless.
And I just wanted to add to that as far as saying hydrate on the day of, also the day before. Like a lot of people come to Vegas and they party it up before the ceremony. So maybe they'll go out as soon as they get to town and start eating salty fried foods and just bad everything. And then the day of their wedding, they're like, how come my dress doesn't fit? I can't put the ring on, you know?
Oh, wow, yeah.
So,
You've seen some of that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. So watch your salt intake.
And don't do any heavy partying no matter where you live. I mean, I'm a firm believer that the bachelor and bachelorette party needs to happen like a month before the wedding. Do you guys
Yes.
agree?
Yes,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah, absolutely. Why? We just explained it all. How do you all deal with obviously nowadays with families, there are stepmoms and stepdads, and brides might not get along with the stepmom, or there have been plenty of situations where the biological mom and the stepmom don't get along together, but you got to do photos. I mean, how do you handle that? Do you recommend that they still have a family portrait even though there's some family dynamics? Who wants to touch that one?
Yes, I recommend it. Definitely. I had a bride or a couple who the groom's father was pretty much out of the picture his whole life, but came in recently and they didn't want him in the photos. 6 months later, they regretted it. So even if you think it's something you don't want at the time, you can always just not look at the photos later. Mm-hmm. So there's not another shot to go back and retake those photos. Mm-hmm. So even if people aren't getting along, tell the photographer to put them in charge and boss the people around, so you don't have to be the person who's upsetting everyone by saying go stand next to them.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And very rarely will they go, oh, no, if a photographer tells you to go stand somewhere. I think a good thing is and we were talking about it before, make a list and tell your photographer about the family dynamics. Just to make a list and say, okay, these people can be in the picture together. Write it all out. Because, as a photographer, I'm going to sit there and go, okay, mother of the bride, father of the bride, siblings of the bride, everybody in the photo. And I doubt they're going to actually stop me. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? They're not going to say, oh, wait, hold on. So I think there's always a way around it. I think I've always found a way around whatever, even if it's like there's a stepmother situation. Do a photo with, if it's the bride's stepmother, do a photo with the stepmom, the dad, and the bride together, or the bride and the groom together. Just do a different photo.
Mm-hmm. Biological parents always call first. That's what I normally do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then I do separate, extended family. Mm-hmm. But normally, you want to start with the biological parents. Mm-hmm. Even though it's keeping separate ties. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then bring significant others. Or you can do different, it's many, different ways that you can handle that. But it's very important to talk about it before.
So the ceremony is over. What do you recommend? Like, should the brides and grooms, you just hit it, I guess you just answered it, but they should have obviously a list of who's here's the situation. We always run into a situation after a wedding ceremony where, okay, we need the family to stay for photos. The family doesn't know
who they are
because you've got your aunts, the cousins, do they stay? So what do you guys recommend?
I think they should tell them beforehand. Make sure you say, hey, I need you to stay after the ceremony for photos. Because that's a big thing. And the list is a big deal.
Yeah.
Especially for me, too, because, you're going, and sometimes they're like, hey, did we get the this and this and this and this? And you're all, wait, hold on. I have to go back and check because you've taken so many at that point. Mm-hmm. The list really helps. And I think the list would help. Maybe put a bridesmaid and a groomsman in charge of it.
Or a friend that
really wants to help out. Yeah. Like a friend that really wants to help out, have them maybe help and say, hey, I need the people on this list. Go. And they should know who they
And usually if you tell the bride, do you have someone in your family that is kind of a loudmouth? And they instantly know, oh, yeah, I know who can put in charge of that. So there's always one.
Yeah, there's always one.
Mm-hmm. And there's always people around wanting to help. There's usually always people around that want to help.
No, absolutely. A list. All right, you brought up a good point. A list. How do you feel about brides who give you a list of not just the names, but the shots? They're now
Pinterest list.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about it.
Oh, you said the P word.
Okay. How do all three of you are going to answer this question? I'm just going to sit back and listen to the answers. My mouth is shut. Tell me, what do you guys think about? Remember, we're talking to the brides out here. What do you guys? Should they have them? Should they not?
I think they should.
Why?
Yeah. I think it should be a little bit of combination. Each photographer has his own style, his own way of shooting, but it's always to be open and be perceptible about what the couple wants, and if they have any kind of particular idea or photo that they want, I think they should be allowed to have it too.
I I won't mention names. I had a bride with Jody that specifically like screenshot Pinterest. This is what she wanted. Every single photo had to be just like this. She was also the one whose husband was shorter than her when she put on the heels.
Oh my God, yeah.
He wasn't going to be able to do the things that she wanted him to do physically in these photos. He wasn't going to be able to like get behind her with, kiss her on the head. He's shorter than her. It wasn't going to work. And so we went round and round. And the one thing that ended up happening is she was actually pretty happy with him. But what they forget is that their wedding is going to have moments in them that they don't even know are going to happen yet. Mm-hmm. And the photographer's there to capture those that, maybe those are going to be the photos they post on Pinterest that other people pin. But I think I like the idea of having ideas. I mean, I go on Pinterest just to open my mind up to different family shots and that kind of thing, just to kind of keep the creativity going. But I think when they get into those little Pinterest bubbles and they don't think outside of them, I think that's when they're basically setting their photographer up to fail. Because there's no way, unless you are going to stage it exactly like this photo, you're going to put the little twinkle lights in the background and this is what you're going to wear and this is what you're going to wear and everything is exactly like the photo. It's not going to turn out the same. It's just not. You can go for that look, but...
Yeah. I actually don't mind the brides with the Pinterest fever.
Fever. I love that. It's new now. They shed a Pinterest fever.
Yeah. Because what it does is helps open up what their style preferences are.
Right.
And kind of helps me figure out what they're looking for. So, are they looking for more documentary, more romantic? So that kind of gives me a common ground to work with from them. And plus they're pretty photos, I'll admit this, they're fun looking at and they are inspirational. But I do tell the brides, like, that's a great shot, but, just so they understand, I'm not going to spend all day duplicating your Pinterest list.
Mm-hmm. And I think that comes up with the conversation that you have with them beforehand. Because the bride that I was talking about with the Pinterest board, I got it the day before. Oh. And this is exactly what she wanted. Oh. And it was one of those. I love the inspiration too. Mm-hmm. But I just don't think people should enter it thinking that they're...
Yeah, some of the scenarios change too as well. Timing, the picture they're showing you is at dawn at 3 o'clock in the afternoon while you're shooting actually the portraits at 6, 7 o'clock when it's pitch black.
Yeah.
So you need to, consider the equipment you're going to use to recreate that photo. Mm-hmm. So there's, and, they're also, they're welcome, but it's many things to discuss prior to.
I think they're a good jumping off point. Mm-hmm.
I do too. I love the Pinterest fever thing. It's very cool. And I'm happy when somebody does present me with a Pinterest board because I look at it. I mean, a lot of people, I get ideas from it from other people in other cities when it comes to business or marketing or, matter of fact, I found our business card on Pinterest when I designed the card because I thought that was cool. And there have been lots of shots that I've seen on Pinterest and I've forwarded to you guys as photographers as well. Like, hey, that's a cool shot. We're going to be at the Las Vegas sign. Let's do the ring finger. I thought that was one of my favorites and it's going to be on our website. But yeah, I'm all for, the more, I think it's very important to communicate with your team. Your entire team, whether it's your from your DJ to your catering to your especially your photographer, it's super important. So yeah, but just my point is this: don't drive the photographer crazy with this Pinterest stuff. I mean, these are professional event photographers. You're not their first wedding. You're not their first trip to the rodeo. They know what they're doing. They know they're going to pose you in some weird positions and do things with you. And just, if you want to have a great photo, go for it. I mean, I tell people that, like, a lot. Like when I work with, you guys, I'll say something like, okay, Raphael might ask you to do some weird stuff. Go with, whatever he tells you to do, go for it. Whatever Tiffany says, whatever Jenna says, whatever Matt says, whoever it is, go for it, because these are experts.
And I get it too. When you're doing a destination wedding and you've only talked to the photographer on the phone.
You could Skype.
I know. That's why it's important.
Come to Vegas ahead of time. Jenna said it.
Yeah, and that's why
do
it's
an engagement
important.
photo.
Or do the engagement photo, or get their portfolio. Ask for photos they've taken so you feel a little bit better about it. I mean, I understand it's got to be kind of scary coming and meeting your photographer for the first time at the day of the wedding. So do everything possible not to make that happen if that makes you uncomfortable.
Well, I don't think they experience this maybe they do, but in other sections of the country where they have the one-stop shop wedding mills. I'm talking about facilities. Might be here in Vegas, the ending might have the word garden in it. Just saying, where they can't bring in their own photographer. They're stuck with everything in house. I mean, what advice do you have for somebody who's forced, who has to settle? They have to settle. They have to use that person. Is there anything you could say to them?
Just pay the fee and bring your own photographer.
Yeah,
That's it.
or look for places that are better about it. Some places will say we have our own professionals, but if you want to bring in your own professional, they just don't want your Uncle Larry coming in and taking the photos. But they said, if you want to bring your own professional in, then sometimes they'll work with you. I think it just depends on how stiff and stingy they're being.
It depends on budget too.
Yeah.
I mean, in my opinion, this may not be the best thing to say, but the couples that find the packages where it's all inclusive, photography is probably not the most important thing to them.
I seem to agree with that. No, I agree with you.
So,
Absolutely.
Not to say it's going to be bad.
No, because
but,
and we're not. I mean, we're saying basically that if photography is important to you, that you should have an opportunity to go and get that designer photographer if that's what you want, to bring. And you should. And here's the thing too. I feel that people shouldn't be penalized because they want to bring in their own photographer. I mean, maybe give them a little credit if you're one of those one-stop shop places. Maybe give them a little credit toward their dinner.
There are some places that do that.
Give them extra shrimp. I don't know. I'm just saying, but I mean, these are people's. This is their history. This is their family. We talked about it. Their family history. I don't feel like you should have, just a cookie cutter experience. I think you should.
Yeah, I think sometimes too, those places will have a list of photography vendors, and then sometimes those places will only have one, and it's an in-house. And I would almost seem to think that the in-house ones would be at least worth talking to if that's what you're looking for as a package deal.
Yeah.
Only because they know the venue.
Yeah. I
That's
agree.
all they shoot.
Yeah.
And then you don't have to worry about wondering. I mean,
And I think you.
and as long as they're all on the up and up and they say, oh yeah, all of our photos on the website were taken by these people, then I get, but I can see where people would be a little more hesitant about that stuff.
Yeah, and I think if you are planning to have a wedding, even with chapel, I mean, come on, I'm sure all three of you, it's no secret, have started. Did you start at a wedding chapel? I mean, no,
Nope.
Raphael, I know you shot for a chapel.
Yeah.
Jenna, you ever shoot for a chapel? Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's no secret. I mean, I think maybe you should have an opportunity to maybe, if photography is important to you and you are going with like a one-stop shop where you can't pick your photographer out, maybe you can just have a conversation with the in-house person that they use. Like you said, maybe make that connection ahead of time. Because you should be able to do that.
And I'm not going to knock those chapel photographers either.
Right.
I mean, their volume is pretty high, so they have lots of practice. And they've seen it all,
And they know the lighting in their own place.
Exactly.
Sure.
They tend to be very, very formal.
Yeah.
Very, very formal. So if you have more of a fun kind of vibe going for it, most of the time with the chapels too, if you go somewhere else, you could always hire a photographer to take
That happens
photos
a lot.
after the chapel ceremony. And it's always good to say, you know what? We had kind of a photo like this in the chapel. Can we get one? You could double up. You can always double up and say, hey, can we get a couple more photos, or can I get a more non-traditional ring shot, or can I get something like that?
Right. Well, I don't think they have the time to.
They don't.
That's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
They're formal because they have a limited amount of time to get the shots.
Right.
And
It's a well-oiled
Sometimes
machine.
creativity takes a little bit longer,
Yeah.
you know.
So we're bringing up the topic of creativity, which is one of the things I wanted to go with. There are different styles, right? Different styles of photography. You talked about more traditional, like the chapel stuff. Raphael is a little bit more on the traditional side.
Yes, it is.
So, and then there's photojournalistic.
Yes, and we were mentioning before the illustration as well.
So to kind of explain to everybody, what each one of you guys can take one. So who wants to say what is the more like traditional and classic? Tiffany.
Well, I don't know if I'm the best person to do that one because I have more of the photojournalism style.
Okay, so tell me about photojournalism.
Because that's my background.
Okay.
So the photojournalism style is a lot more candid. Even in the pose shots, there's a little bit more of a relaxed atmosphere. It's not as stiff and straight and formal as your mother's or your grandmother's wedding photos were. Even if they take place in a church or in a chapel or on a hillside, they still it has a different feeling to it. I don't stop clicking when they stop looking at me. When things start moving, I actually click more.
Okay.
It's capturing some of those laughing moments, that kind of stuff. Along with the post things is a lot more candid, a lot more, I guess it'd probably be taken wrong if you say it, but the voyeuristic kind of thing where you go where the laughter is and take photos. And when they see them afterwards, they didn't even remember that. Like, when did they take that photo? I don't remember.
Photo,
That's a
right.
cool photo, but I don't remember them taking it. And that's kind of what I go for.
Jenna?
I think a lot of people do want that documentary style. The traditional is the pose formals. It's very old school. You still can get some beautiful stuff with it, but even though you may say you're a documentary photographer, you still get those couples that will come along and say, "What do I do with my hands?" And so the trick.
Yeah.
That's good, Jenna.
That was good. Yeah.
The trick is to pose them without making look posed.
Right.
So you give them direction, and is that documentary? It kind of still is.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not shooting for the Associated Press. We're not AP photographers. We're wedding photographers. So it's you want the documentary style, but you don't want them to look awkward too. So you kind of have to direct it. So it's a combination of both. It really is.
I kind of go with you as well. I kind of mix it up a little bit as well. I do a little bit of the journalistic and the classic photography at the same time. I do pay a lot of attention on the body language and feet, hands, hair, details. Sometimes you get that hair just coming across the face. And if you're using a second line, you cast a huge shadow on there, on the face. I kind of mix it up a little bit, honestly. And I kind of tend to go more on the classic side for the family portraits, which is photos that grandma and uncle are going to be seeing. And I get a little bit loose with the journalist and more contemporary photography during the portrait session. And getting ready shots and during the reception time as well. But I'd say each particular style should be present. And
I agree.
to illustrate a beautiful wedding album, you should have a little bit of mix of everything.
I agree.
Agreed. Yeah.
So the journalist getting ready, that shot behind, grandma's head and her looking at the bride, putting her dress or the daughter. But for the family portraits, I go a little bit more of the classic.
Just to add to that.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
No, please.
No.
When I first started and I had a wedding website up, it was all unposed. It was all very natural, no one looking at the camera kind of photos. And a couple booked me, said, "We love your photos." And so afterwards, we did the engagement session. And then afterwards, they saw the engagement photos. Like, we love the photos, but there's none of us looking at the camera. I'm like, well, that's traditional, and I thought I was hired based on the documentary style. So that was a learning point for me. Just because they like that style still doesn't mean that they want the traditional things as well. Because, mom and dad, grandma, grandpa, they want those posed photos.
Absolutely.
So.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, I definitely mix it up a little bit. Yeah, I give them a little bit of direction. If I want to have a little bit more of that loose flow, I just post them, give them direction, and I walk away. let them dance a little bit together, love each other a little bit, and capture some of that. But at the same time, I do pose them, pay attention to the hands, pay attention to the dress, the train, the veil, where things are placed, how high is the bouquet, where is she holding the bouquet, the position of the body. I think it means a lot.
How do you guys feel about receptions? I noticed that I worked with this one bride one time, and she was a little disappointed after we do like a little interview and ask, "Oh, how did your wedding go?" She was kind of disappointed because she didn't feel there were enough detail shots at her wedding reception. Now we're going to talk just real quickly wedding reception. What are some of the detail shots that a photographer should get at the wedding reception?
Well, first of all, I'm kind of surprised that she would know that.
Well,
Because
she had a
most
lot
of
of
the time-
she had a lot of tchotchkes out. To be honest with
No,
you,
that's
Okay.
fine.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is I'm surprised that she knew that she didn't get a lot of detail shots, because usually we do that when they're doing something else or getting ready for the grand entrance, or usually I don't even think they would know what they got until afterwards. To some degree.
well, no, it was
But
after
with-
when the photos were delivered.
When
She
the
knows
photos were
she didn't
delivered.
see.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
sorry, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
okay.
Yeah, when the photos were delivered, she said she didn't see a lot of the little tchotchkes that she threw out there. How do you?
I try to
what do
get
you-
a shot of everything.
I
try to get a
details,
shot of
flowers.
everything, yeah.
They do spend a lot of money into details as well. Flowers, table settings, linens. Not much. Well, I don't know about the silverware, but yeah, just covering a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Tables, details.
Room
when-
shot.
Room shot for sure. Guest book, table, table, candy.
I actually ask sometimes, is there anything really really special or really important that maybe I can't see because I haven't been involved with it? I mean, I've had brides have things in their bouquets that you wouldn't even know
Yeah.
until you ask. Or there's been like a certain thing on the table that, I put this color in because my grandpa's not here with us anymore.
Yeah,
and
it's
this
a memory
a
table.
memory kind
Yeah.
of thing. And so I don't think there's any problem with asking. I think they actually like it when you do ask. But on the bride or the groom side, don't feel weird about offering that stuff up. You can even give them, I wouldn't say necessarily a shot list, but say, hey, these are some of the important things that maybe you won't know, but just pay attention to. I always appreciate that kind of stuff.
And I think that's where it's important to have a schedule in place too, that would allow for the photographer to go into the reception hall prior to the grand entrance to photograph the details, especially when the room's empty. Like maybe this would be a good thing for the second photographer to cover,
Right.
while the first photographer is doing the formal family portraits or the romantics, if there's a time crunch there.
And I've been on time crunches where I've shot 3-hour weddings, I think before, and I have to do all the detail shots during dinner. Well, what do you think they do with the lighting during dinner?
Yeah.
They bring it way down, and so you're kind of struggling to, I don't want the whole room to have the lights come up a little bit just for some detailed shots. But at the same time, I don't know if I want to lug around a light either. I mean, I've used lights. I've used the light on my phone before to illuminate it a little bit better. A wedding that we recently did in December, the lighting was just, it was practically dark in there.
And what do you do about those situations? Do you tell the banquet facility we need to? And now LED lighting, room decor lighting is huge. Uplighting is huge at weddings. Is that something you ask ahead of time when you talk to your bride and groom? What do you recommend?
If they bring it way far down, I'll ask them if they can just bring it up a little, because there's usually a part in there where I don't think people dancing are necessarily going to think, oh, it's really bright in here, that you can deal with. But if I'm on a time crunch and I have to get detailed shots during dinner, that's the only time that's really a problem.
Yeah.
Or sometimes during a reception, especially if they do glow sticks or stuff like that, it can get a little tricky, but usually be able to work around it.
What are your feelings about working with a wedding planner? A coordinator.
A good one?
Well, I guess I know your feeling.
No, a good one is a good one.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
Yeah, the bigger and more elaborate your wedding is, the more important it is to have a wedding planner. Even for the smaller ones, especially if you're from out of town, having someone coordinate everything is amazing.
I had a friend, I had a friend who wanted to get married here, doesn't live here, was under the impression that the wedding coordinator was going to be with them the whole time. A lot of these wedding coordinators, and not just in Vegas, this is everywhere, a lot of these wedding coordinators will say, okay, everything's going, awesome, see ya, and they're out.
Yeah.
Things get started and they're gone. My friends don't do what we do, so they just kind of looked at me like, help. And I was a guest, and I was the one getting them down the aisle, like telling them when to go. I had to go back and forth between the DJ to make sure, and the groom, and make sure that we were on schedule for the different events. I ended up coordinating the wedding for
Was it
them.
a wedding coordinator, or was it, quote, the catering lady at the place?
It was. She called herself the coordinator for the hotel that they were at.
Okay, yeah.
But this has happened.
We had a whole show about that.
How many times though have you guys had to show bride and groom how to cut a cake? Because
Oh yes.
Yeah,
We
it's
always
all
do.
the time,
Our business card should say photographer
For-
/ event planner.
cake cutter.
Yes.
Cake cutter. I'm not even kidding, because they're like, oh, reception's going well. See you later. I'm out. And they're gone. And you turn around and they are, but in the other instance, there are the good ones that are, hey, do you need anything? Can I get you a glass of water? Your food is in the other room. One time I had part of my equipment, just whatever. And they're like, here, try these batteries, and handed me batteries to try it in, and it worked. It was weird. But yeah, I mean, but that's what I'm saying. Like, the good ones are priceless. The other
Yeah.
ones,
They're just on the way. Yeah.
Have you ever had a bad experience with one, or do they ever get in the way? Have you ever had ones like tell you what to do?
I had a bartender at this wedding that I was talking about in December come up and hand me, the bride and groom had these really elaborate napkins up at the bar that weren't at the tables.
Oh, okay.
And he was like, you might need this. And I was like, I love you. Thanks.
Okay.
I'm open to that kind of stuff. I haven't had anybody necessarily get in the way, but
Good.
I think you asked about bad experience. It's more like a typical experience. It's like you expect them to bail halfway through. You expect them not to teach them how to cut the cake. You kind of expect it. So when you get a good one, it's kind of a surprise.
Well, I think a lot of the event venues, have the caterers that help with the cake cutting.
Yes.
So I'm ashamed I don't know the name, but the manager of the catering who's on duty
Oh,
that
like
night,
the banquet captain.
Yeah,
a
the banquet
banquet
captain.
captain. Sure.
they'll come out and help instruct the couple and bring the plates and all that.
Have you ever had the DJ?
Sure.
Yeah.
Let me ask you
I
this:
have.
Doing it.
You
Yeah.
have, how
have the
important? Speaking of DJ, how important is a good MC, a good DJ, to make your job easy at the reception?
I've dealt with just DJs that didn't really MC, and I think that was the bride and groom's request. They didn't really want an MC. They just wanted the guy to play music and be good with it. And they were from a whole different company. And for me, it was just communication. Hey, we're in this together. And I haven't met one yet that just kind of blew me off. Most of them, even if they work for other companies or whatever, will usually give me a heads up when, the cake cutting's coming up, or the bouquet toss, or whatever.
Yep.
I have experienced a little bit of both sides, the good ones and the bad ones, where they don't even tell you when things are happening, and you're just walking in the middle of the bouquet toss and things like that. But I truly believe that it is important for the photographer, very, very important, to communicate with the DJ or MC right at the beginning of the event. Very extremely important.
Absolutely. What about feeding your photographer? Should brides feed their photographers?
Yes.
Anything over
Yes.
4 hours.
Yes. Yeah,
Anything
exactly.
over
I worked
4
an
hours.
8-hour wedding once where they did not feed us at all. That's why I started carrying granola bars in my camera bag. It's bad because I know there's some venues that'll do a bag lunch
Yeah.
for vendors.
A box
yeah.
lunch,
I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
I'm totally fine
Oh,
with
yeah.
that. I just need like 10 or 15 minutes and I'm good.
And
you
they
just
should-
want to think. I think you want to think about it like work. Like if you were going to work, when would you need a break? I mean, it's the same thing for them. I mean, you don't really take pictures of people while they're eating.
No.
So that's always a good time to
Although
be able to
there
grab
have
a
been people
snack.
that have wanted photos of them, like they don't understand the whole block of time. Like you have your photographer for 5 hours, and then you guys go and go into the break room or eat, and then they get their pictures back, and they're like, "There's no pictures of us eating." Well, who wants a
Wants
picture
pictures
of you shoving broccoli down your throat?
But I have
is
had
that
people-
going to make the photo album? Jen is like ready to go ahead and say it.
I've never had that. I only had one bride that specifically requested food in their mouths because it was a family joke.
It
you know?
happened to me, yes. It was more like a
Mine
fun
was-
kind
mine
of thing.
was-
Yeah. I
They
got that
wanted-
couple.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
they were having this one bride and groom had the meal for everybody else, and then they had like a super fancy lobster meal for them, and they wanted a picture of that and that food. And then I've heard people say, "Can you go take a picture of the food area, like where all the food is laid out?" Because they thought it was pretty.
Buffet.
No, it was not even really a buffet. It's more like a display, like a dessert display or something like that. And that was part of the
Two
detail
things I
shots
think we
anyway.
should touch on. A, when you feed the photographer should be in the same room with you eating. You shouldn't be in a room down the hallway.
Well, it's easier. I mean, if there's two photographers, you can tag team it.
Of course.
Because that way, at least you can relax and you can get your gear out and do whatever you need to do, and you don't have to worry about people looking at you. But at the same time, it's hard because you don't know what's going on in the other room.
Right.
That's the
That's
why
why you need to keep that communication with you.
Yeah.
I don't think it's
Yeah.
I don't think it's
Very
right
important.
to put you in another room. A. B. The other thing, when it comes time to feeding the photographer, and I'm sure you guys are going to agree with me, you need to be fed when the guests get fed.
Yeah.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
why, Raphael? Why do you need to be fed when the guests get fed?
Why? Because then right after dinner normally is the bouquet. No, I'm sorry, is the
Stuff.
the toast.
Yeah.
And right after that is the cutting of the cake.
And things just go.
And things that happen back to back. And that's the only downtime that you normally have.
Usually they wait to serve you until all the guests have already been fed, and then by the time you get something to eat, the bride and grooms are already up, walking around, going table to table.
Yeah.
And you want those interactions
Yeah.
of photo wise. You want those
or
interactions.
table shots. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's when
exactly.
you normally do your table shots.
Absolutely. One of the last things I want to touch on, because, excuse me, we only have a few minutes left, is guests. Now everybody has a phone. Everybody wants to take photos. Everybody's posting on social media. What advice do you have to the wedding couples out there about this?
Yield to the professional photographer. There is a picture going around. I don't know if you guys have seen it. I've seen it on Facebook a few times, where it's an aisle with a bunch of people in the audience sticking their phones out into the aisle with the bride and groom at the end, and you can't. The photographer. It's taken from I think a photographer took it at a wedding, where all you see is phones and you can't see the bride and groom at the end of the aisle.
It's more like a concert than it is a.
It totally
Yeah,
is. It
correct.
totally turns into that. And I think that comes with, Jody, when I've worked with you, you've said, hey guys, yield, make sure she gets her shot first. I think that's really important, especially if there's an MC, even if they don't work for the same company, maybe letting them know that, or letting your guests
You know what?
know that.
There's no such thing as working for the same company on the day of the wedding, because you know what?
Right.
We all work for the bride and groom or the wedding couple. We are there for them.
True.
So you know what? And when you hire a photographer or any team member for your reception, for your big day, we're all part of the same team. We have the best interest for you, and that's to get the best shots, the most fun. If it's a DJ who says to the photographer, put those hands up in the air, or a DJ who says, hey guys, Raphael is the professional photographer here. Let him get his cake cutting shot first. Once he gives us the thumbs up, you guys can jump right in. That's,
It helps a lot.
they're calling them, what are they calling them? Unplugged. Right, Jenna? Unplugged for, do you think a bride should request an unplugged ceremony more than anything? Right? You shouldn't have your whole wedding unplugged. Unplugged, by the way, means no friends or family can take photos at your wedding reception, which I think is stupid.
Yeah, at the reception?
Yeah, everything, just the whole day.
Oh, okay.
I've had brides do
But
just a
unplugged
ceremony.
at the ceremony, I agree.
yeah.
I've heard, I guess the bride and groom will sometimes communicate that to the officiant, and the officiant will do that announcement.
Oh, good. Because
Yeah.
then you don't get that shot you just described.
Right.
Yeah, and tell them to stay in their seats and
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
move around.
Yeah.
I've battled it with aunts and uncles who come up to next shoulder to shoulder with me while I'm shooting the ring exchange.
I remember
you
a
know?
wedding at Tropicana. We had a situation. You remember years ago? We had a guy with a photographer, a friend, something like that. He kept on like getting in your way. Like we had to finally start. Her eyes are lighting. We were very polite. We were very polite and just said, "Listen, Jenna is the professional photographer here, and I know that you want to take photos of Cynthia and Joe, but she was hired.
He was cute
and
with
everything
his little
after that was
camera.
okay. Yeah, his little
It was
exactly.
cute.
His little camera. Oh my gosh. All right. With that, I always do this to end the show. Could you believe we're almost out of time? Isn't
Right.
it? I mean, we touched on a lot of stuff. Thank you guys. There's been great information, a lot of good takeaways. One thing I want to also remind people too, WPPI. We didn't talk about
yeah.
that, but real quickly, WPPI is the convention where wedding and portrait photographers, they attended. It's always in Las Vegas. And I think it's very, very important that when you interview a photographer for your wedding, ask them, have they been to a WPPI? Do they go to the seminars? Raphael, you said there were some really, really good seminars.
Oh yes, absolutely. Just to be able to keep up to what's new, new equipment, new lighting, new books, anything, is very, very, very important.
Yeah, absolutely.
I truly believe.
Absolutely. All right, so
Keep
guys,
up to date.
yeah, it's real. And no matter what industry you're in, you could be a bricklayer. You need to know what's going on in the advertising world, and if you work in advertising and social media and PR, whatever it is. I mean, come on, look, Vegas is the capital for conventions, and you guys, not only do you do wedding photography, but you've shot a lot of corporate photography too. So it's out there. You should definitely, if you're doing this for a living, then you need to. You need to learn. There's always room. I mean, think about it. It wasn't that long ago when we were shooting on film. And now everything's digital. We're in a digital world. Nobody's getting, they still get, some of them, people still get albums, but we're delivering our stuff now via the internet. Where people are downloading their, you're editing their images now and you're delivering them to them electronically. So all right, I'm getting the warning signal here. So here's what I want to do. I want one quick short takeaway from you guys. What just one piece of advice, just one takeaway really short to give to our wedding couples. Anybody have something popping out right now?
I don't know what they're called, but those little makeup pads to wipe away the shine.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, like a blotter.
Blotter.
Yeah.
Blotters in Vegas.
Blotting tissue.
Yeah.
And that's anywhere.
Yeah.
Because everybody sweats.
Yeah.
So,
especially here.
yep. Raphael?
Make sure your photographer has a backup camera.
Okay.
That goes without saying, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Make sure he has 2 cameras with him.
Okay.
Always.
Okay. Tiffany?
I would say come with ideas, but be open to photographers' ideas.
Okay.
Come with a good sense of what you want, but be open to suggestions.
Okay. And how does one find, are you on social media, Tiffany?
Yeah.
How do they find you?
Most of the, I would say Instagram probably.
And your Instagram is?
The TSL Bond.
Okay. Raphael?
RaphaelLizaragaphotography.com. That's my website.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. They're going to remember that. I could barely remember that, but okay. Do you have a Twitter or Instagram?
No, I don't right now.
Okay, not right now.
Just
Okay.
got
And I'll put
hacked.
it up on our Weddings Done Right too, so they can
Yes.
get the spelling
Perfect.
correct. And Jenna?
You can find me on Instagram at Jenna-Photo. That's JennaDosch.
Perfect. All right. And of course, me, I'm Jody Harris on Twitter. Jody Harris on Twitter. I'm also on Snapchat now, but I don't think you guys would want to see too much of my Snapchat. But anyway, because I'm always working, whatever you do. Anyway, I am Jody Harris. I want to thank our guests today for being here. I also would love for you guys to share our podcast with your friends, your family. If you know somebody who's getting married, definitely tell them about the show. Like us, rate us, review us. We definitely need that. With that, once again, thank you so much for listening to this picture perfect show. And I want you guys to make it fun-tastic. Thanks, everybody.